I'm John Doyle.
Hi.
You might know me as the YouTube man who hosts the Heck Off.
I'll probably introduce John Doyle. He's one of those super conservative young people that are like bordering on, like he might be a crypto fascist, and he's also like you have people like Fosh and actual Jake who like make fun of him for having a not very masculine appearance. I'm not going to be making fun of him for that because this is what I look like. Yeah, he's... So congratulations, John Doyle, you're being... Like, you... one of the people commentating on your... videos is probably even less masculine than you are. Yeah, although the thing is, you look more like a boy. I probably look more like a woman. I probably need to change my eyebrow style. They're kind of thick, at least there. I typically just review movies. Sometimes I do political videos. This is going to be one of those political videos. In case you couldn't tell.
Commie program that so many of us enjoy, but really, I'm just a normal guy like you.
I don't personally enjoy your program. I find it rather cringe.
I have dreams, fears. I've struck out and caused...
We all need dreams. I dream of being a filmmaker.
It's my team the big game before. Sometimes I say...
Ha, nerd. Just kidding. I'm not good at sports either. I've taken up archery though.
...in the car. And like all good people, I can be labeled and charted on arbitrary graphs which are produced by vague and loaded questions, so I hope that you'll stay tuned as we take the political...
The political compass test's questions are actually pretty clear and straightforward. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Compass test. Together. Let's get started.
John Doyle in. Heck off, commie.
I'm very excited.
Kinda surprised that he's not wearing a fake mustache in that opening.
Excited to do this for a couple reasons. Firstly, this video actually is a test for YouTube because the title of the video has my name in it. So what this is going to do is tell us if when you search John Doyle on YouTube, all the videos made by the people calling me a Nazi, those come up first because my name is in the title or because that's the perception of me that YouTube wants people to have. So theoretically, if it's just because...
He kind of just talks throughout a lot of this video. Obviously, he does have to... Obviously, you do have to talk during these types of videos, but he says something that should be done in like 1 or 2 sentences, and he like somehow goes on for like 10 sentences. So I might as well get comfortable if we're going to be here a while.
Because my name is in the title, this video should go right up there with them. But only time will tell. Can't say I'm too optimistic. And also because I've noticed that, you know, conservatives, we like to hold ourselves in high regard. Like, oh, these leftists get so triggered by ideas. How pathetic. But then I come out and say...
At least he seems to be aware of the hypocrisy on the right, where they say that the left is like, haha, you're scared of ideas. And he seems like he's going to go into the direction of, well, the right isn't that much better. I'll have to give him credit on that.
Say, hey, you know, we should probably regulate porn or something, and then I get death threats from my wonderful audience. So I'm excited to put this out here, find out where we...
I do agree that the porn industry should be regulated. Has anyone seen and has anyone in the audience seen Blade Runner? You know, there's the scene where, like, Harrison Ford is undercover and, like, he's investigating this sex worker that might be a killer robot. It is a pretty interesting thing, because the context of that is meant to be, like, it's utterly ridiculous that he's investigating to make sure that this sex worker isn't being taken advantage of. And, like, nowadays, it should be seen like sex workers work, sex workers should not be taken advantage of. So, yeah, some regulation, I think, would be, like, human resources, make sure there's no abuse happening, maybe do some, make sure everybody's, like, not spreading any diseases, and all these things I think should be paid for by the studio, not the individual. That'd be fucked up. John, I assume John Doyle wants to, like, outright ban porn altogether, which I'm not behind.
We agree, find out where we don't, and then move forward from there. So the last time I took this test, I believe I was a sophomore in high school, and I remember that all of the questions were very vague, and many of them were predicated upon false premises. So I'll walk you through sort of how I'm interpreting all of these as we go through them. But the way it works is that it tries to graph you along two axes, one for left versus right, one for authoritarian versus libertarian. And I'm not the biggest fan of this model, but I do understand the reasoning behind it. My prediction is that I'll be somewhere in the blue, which is where conservatives will end up if it's accurate. I highly doubt that I'll be in the purple, which is where the libertarians would be. I am a conservative, not a libertarian, but I used to be a libertarian, and obviously there's some overlap, but I'll let you guys be the arbiters of that, so we'll get to it. So the first question, if economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. This is kind of what I was talking about. I don't like the questions. I wish that they made them more explicit and specific. Like, I think that would make...
that question was pretty clear and explicit. Should economic globalization benefit humanity or corporations? That's incredibly clear. How are you... Whatever, let's move on.
Make for a much more accurate test, but, I'm not going to be this guy about it. Like, I'll take the test. The first thing, economic globalization is not actually inevitable. It's often purported to be this inevitable consequence of societal evolution. It's the culmination of technological...
I disagree with your... Economic globalization, basically, it's not really new. I mean, you've had different nation states trading with each other for hundreds of years. So why even bring it up?
And industrial development, etc. This is just not the case when we talk about modern economic globalization. That was the direct result of the deliberate creation of certain institutions and policies with specific agendas in mind. And, like, we can weigh the pros and cons of that at a later time, but, I guess if the premise is, like, if it's inevitable, so, okay, if it's inevitable, it should primarily serve...
Oh my god, move on.
...the interests of humans over transnational corporations. That's also tricky because corporations are just, like, abstract legal entities. So human beings comprise corporations. Corporations are just people. So I don't think these two are mutually exclusive.
Yes, they are mutually exclusive. I mean, the people who run the corporations, like, get a disproportionate amount of profits. You don't... Like, the person who's, like, cleaning the floors in the office is not making, like, the same, like, $100,000 salary as the CEO. What the hell are you talking about?
Exclusive. as our friends on the left would say, it's not binary, but I guess that's why they say primarily. So yeah, okay, primarily I'd say that I agree with that, because to primarily serve the interests of humanity is in effect to serve the interests of corporations, because corporations can be extremely helpful to humanity, but to primarily...
Okay, in a strictly utilitarian sense, not necessarily the corporations themselves, rather the corporations, what they might manufacture. I think I don't necessarily disagree with him here, but his reasoning is beyond stupid.
Serve the interests of corporations isn't necessarily to serve the interests of humanity, and people will respond to that by saying, oh, well, corporations can only benefit through voluntary transactions in the free markets. Yeah, I know who Milton Friedman is, but to serve the interests of corporations is like in isolation. That leads to things like
move
monopolies.
on.
I mean, those are beneficial to corporations, like by definition. That's
move
why
on.
For regulations to crush small businesses.
Shut up.
To use antitrust laws to break up.
You've already answered the question. Move on.
To serve their own interests. Like a business only has an incentive to make money. That can mean voluntary transactions where everyone's happy, or that can mean getting the population addicted to or dependent upon a product that only it sells, and then jacking up the prices. Like those are both beneficial to corporations. You can't just...
I kind of like that he's criticizing capitalism despite being a conservative, though it kind of does bleed credence that he's a crypto fascist, because it said that fascists do see the problems of capitalism, and they want to you either embrace fascism and just commit genocide, or you embrace socialism and you say that the workers should own the factory.
Just assume that businesses always have the best interests of people at heart, and so what we have to do is try to have a system that facilitates their success if it benefits...
Move on. How are you still on this point?
From lobbying for regulations that kill smaller competition, basically things like tremendous deregulation of different markets, but we also have to acknowledge the importance of not allowing certain things to be marketed. Like you're selling homemade hair conditioner made from pumpkin seed oil out of your house from an online store, which enables you to pay for your daughter's soccer season. Like, that's epic. Step aside, Uncle Sam. But you want to sell heroin in my neighborhood? You want to get my sons more interested in pornography than bike rides so you can profit off ad revenue? Yeah, I don't think so. Not in my neighborhood. So I'll just say that I agree. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great if we didn't have to overthink everything, if we could just answer the questions? But of course, we always have to overthink. But
you're the one overthinking. The question was simple: should economic globalization benefit people or corporations? That was it. You didn't need to. Oh my god, we're just 5 minutes into this video, and we're only now getting up to the second question. Oh boy.
Try to be more expeditious. I'd always support my country whether it was right or wrong. True. Strongly agree. I'd always support my country. I love my country, and that doesn't mean I love the government of my country. The government of my country is dumb. They only know 6 things.
How long is he going to spend on this question?
And at least 4 of them aren't even true. My country is you. It's my family, my forefathers, my land. This land was made for me and you.
Okay.
We talk about supporting something. I believe that literally means to support it, to do your best to prevent it from collapsing. If your friend wanted you to go with them to a party in a dangerous neighborhood and you said no, you get a call from them. They're like, hey, you were right. They're playing Russian roulette with a Glock and a 6-sided die. Can you come get me? You might want to say, I told you so, but at the end of the day, you want what's best for your friend. So you go and you pick them up and you scold them after the fact, after they're no longer in danger.
That's why I voted against the Conservative Party.
So the way I interpret this is yes, I'll always support my country, and that I will always love my country, and I will always do my best to keep her on the right track, basically. So yes.
I think it's more like a nationalistic kind of question. If your country want to say invade some random country in the Middle East for its oil, would you support that? I think you pretty much would.
No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Strongly disagree. That's like saying there's no reason to be proud of your parents. You didn't choose to be their child. Now, it would be weird and like pretty.
Well, that's not the exact same thing. I mean, your parents, like, they give you love, they give you a home. My parents did. I know that there are, some unfortunate souls out there that like live on the street and maybe they lose their parents, or maybe the parents had no intention of really being parents to those people. So yeah, your analogy is bullshit, John Doyle. And the thing is, okay, if America has a terrible mass incarceration problem, but yeah, you're probably okay with that.
Narcissistic to just be proud of your country exclusively or primarily because you were born there. But in my case, I happen to have been born in a country that frankly is worth being proud of, more so than all other countries, I would say. But that doesn't mean that other people shouldn't also be.
That's despite your country having a shit healthcare system. I'm not sure if you can tell by my accent, but I'm not American.
Proud of their countries. I love it. I really do. Like, when people are proud of their countries, it truly brings me happiness to see British people taking pride in Brexit, for example. I really like that. Unless your country sucks, then
well, ironically, Brexit sucks. Brexit doesn't mean anything.
Probably shouldn't be proud of it, but our race has many superior qualities.
I like that he didn't spend 5 minutes on that last question, so yeah, I gotta give you that.
With other races, this is interesting because they say our race, which
can't you just? Why did you? It's pretty. It's just a yes or no question. This is, some might say, this is telling.
Which implies that the author of this test and I are undoubtedly of the same race, and the only way to ensure that would be
not necessarily. Why does it have to imply that you and the question asker are the same race?
To define race as the human race, and I do believe that the human race is superior to all other species, because typically when we say the human race, we
what are you? Oh my. No, the question is pretty. It's pretty clear, asking about different races in humans. Now, of course, race is a social construct, but pretending that it doesn't exist isn't going to help anything.
Really mean the human species, and of course I am team human every day, but I'm more inclined to think that this is the standard issue.
Team human every day. I bet that should be fine with unjust wars and shit healthcare, and also anti-abortion.
Are you a Nazi question, which I'm not, but also as a Christian I disagree with the premise for we are all one in Jesus Christ.
So just disagree. You don't strongly disagree.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Disagree. If the enemy of your enemy were your friend, he'd explicitly be your friend. Oftentimes people can work together for a time, united by their dislike for something or someone, but if that relationship was conceived by your mutual
I do agree with him here, and John Doyle, why you don't need to spend 3 minutes responding to a question.
dislike for whatever that thing is. What's to stop that relationship from dissolving or becoming hostile after that thing is taken care of? Like, the foundation of a friendship is much more stable than that, but I also understand the short-term strategy behind it, so I'll just disagree.
Thank God.
Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. True. Strongly agree. Of course, we can always come up with a reason for something to be justified, but...
I do see some circumstances where defying international law could be justified. I can't think of any right now, but he probably just clicked agree because, like, if Trump decided we are going to invade Australia to take its beaches, we want more, and we are going to weaponize their spiders. I think John would be totally behind that.
International law is basically fake, and I am seriously of the opinion that
international law is basically fake, so is every law.
Possess more actualized brain power after a small black coffee than the entire United Nations General Assembly. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. If the question were just there is a worrying fusion of information and entertainment, I might be inclined to just agree, but it specifies now.
I don't really get that question at all.
Which isn't true. I mean, fusing information and entertainment is something that human beings have always done. Some of the best works of literature, for example, do exactly.
He is kind of right here.
This, my personal favorite being Animal Farm by George Orwell, which of course is a critique.
I haven't read Animal Farm. I've read 1984. One of my favorite books. You should read it. Not necessarily talking to John Doyle here. Anyone who's listening to this, read 1984. It's a really fucking good book.
Of Stalinist Russia, but it's about little farm animals.
Oh wait, yeah. Sorry, I got confused. He was talking about Animal Farm.
It's fun, but this seems to be pretty innate to human nature. So the solution to me would just be to get more conservatives involved in entertainment, so we could chip away at the left's monopoly. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. Strongly disagree. The 20th century basically owned that hypothesis with facts and logic, which is partially what led to the left.
No, that's not true. I mean, after World War One, there was a huge socialist movement throughout various countries. I mean, that's exactly what happened to Tsarist Russia. Yeah, like, Russia was an autocracy. They got rid of the Tsar, and then the communist revolution happened. I'm not thinking, by the way.
Embracing racial and sexual identity politics as a political strategy. The original hypothesis basically failed. Some men tried to update the software.
Move on.
Notably, Lenin. Mao is a good example, but that failed. So no, people are not more divided by class than by nationality.
What do you mean by Mao failed? What do you mean by Lenin failed? I mean, they turned their countries into superpowers. What took America 200 years took like China and Russia like a decade, a little bit more than a decade.
Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Strongly agree. The backbone of an economy is its monetary policy.
Yeah, because you can't do both.
If you look at what's caused the recessions and depressions of the past, it can often be traced back to bad monetary policy. And the way that you would control unemployment...
This is so... He just doesn't stop talking. He says so many things that I can't possibly respond to them all.
Would be to have the government create jobs through things like public works projects. But the problem with that is that the sustainability...
Okay, what were you going to say here?
Something like that is basically still dependent on the monetary policy, so that's going to end up taking precedence. Because corporations cannot be trusted...
Okay, what he said about the... Okay, the government does have lots of jobs, so I think that's kind of... So I think his logic is faulty.
To voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. Yeah, you need to account for externalities, but this is not meant to shoehorn in...
Okay, good on you, John Doyle. Thank you for for making sense. Congratulations.
Like a Green New Deal, which goes way beyond that by basically any metric, so we'll just agree. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Yeah, I mean, it sure sounds like a good idea. When I think of an idea being good or bad,
he's probably thinking of Marx when he reads this, even though that's not actually a Marx quote.
Like, why does it even exist? And the ideas exist to solve problems. So because of that, the idea should be evaluated on how well it's actually going to solve that problem.
What are you doing?
The left evaluates ideas based on how good they sound. Like
Please move.
Context. This particular idea sounds like a good
move
idea.
on.
It sounds like a virtuous idea.
Shut
but
up.
It doesn't actually work in practice. And it cost us tens of millions of human lives to figure that out. But that's not quite enough for them yet. Or so.
Oh, tens of millions of lives there. The whole communist killed 100 billion people meme. Do you know how many deaths capitalism is responsible for?
Would seem. It's a sad reflection on society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. No, it's a sad reflection on society that people can make statements like that as if they're very insightful. Like, wow, that's deep, man. Why are we paying for something that we can get for free? Let me just go get my funnel and my jug from my car, and we can just wait for 3 hours instead of going into the convenience store and paying 99 cents. Like, what else would it be? It's a resource. It's scarce. We need it. Like, why?
Maybe it's scarce because it's being made scarce.
Why not sell it? You still buy your water from the government. Do you think that's what all of us should do? No, thank you. I don't want the fluoride stare. Okay, relax.
Fluoride. Okay. The thing about the fluoride, it's apparently in there for because it's dental and there's fluoride in mouthwash, but overall I don't disagree with him on the fluoride. I don't think that they should put fluoride in the water without our consent. They're not using fluoride to control our minds. That's really stupid, but still, I kind of wish it wasn't in there.
Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. It's the same thing. As opposed to what? The government distributing it as they see fit? That is incorrect on at least a practical and a philosophical.
What about all these super rich people that buy these huge estates full of they have so much more space than they could ever need?
Level. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to society. So this question was obviously written by someone who is...
I wonder how much time he's going to spend this one.
Never taken a second to try to comprehend how the financial services industry works. It's not just pushing numbers on a screen and, watching it light up. Yay, colors! No, and even if that were the case, why is that regrettable? Why would we regret that? It seems like an odd way to put it, but, that being said, there are people within the industry that exploit the society to benefit themselves, which is doing more than just a hypothetical not contributing to it. So we'll disagree.
Oh wow!
Protectionism is sometimes necessary.
Okay, pretty cool that he did that. Pretty cool that I think he spent less than a minute on there. I have to admire that.
In trade. Strongly agree. We're not going to let our country be taken advantage of anymore. I mean, protectionism is 34% of what won Donald Trump the election in 2016, and both the right and the left have their own.
Are you sure about that? Sure about it was protectionism? Because again, I read that it was because of it wasn't necessarily it wasn't exclusively racism that got him the election, but it was. A lot of it was pandering to, white male obsolescence.
For supporting free trade, all of them are misguided. Seriously, here's something you don't hear too often. There is nothing conservative about supporting free trade. The founder of the Republican Party, Abraham Lincoln, was a protectionist, and his three pals alongside him on Mount Rushmore.
But no, it's everybody knows that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party switched positions, right?
Washington, Jefferson, and Roosevelt. They were all protectionists as well. Jefferson, he came around after the War of 1812. Good for him. He got there. Alexander Hamilton, who was George Washington's treasurer and who sits nicely on the $10 bill, he was a protectionist. This idea that, wide open cowboy capitalism, free trade is the American way. It's just not true. It's not real history. The second piece of legislation that George Washington signed into law after independence was literally a tariff. If you want to hollow out American towns and keep our supply lines dependent on foreign countries who are often hostile towards us, vote for free trade. But be careful.
It's better to trade with other countries.
If a viral pandemic breaks out, you might be in hot water, but it's unlikely, right? It's not like they eat notoriously diseased animals like you and I eat apple pie or anything, so you should be fine. But yeah, if you want to put American families first, vote for protectionism. The only social
okay, about the protectionism thing, like I do support some level of protectionism, but only to maintain the native fauna and flora. It's bad to have a foreign plant and animal species killing the native plant life.
Responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. I don't know if you could even call that a social responsibility. That I feel as though that's more of a structural obligation. So I don't really like the premise. So I'll disagree, but it's important to note that just...
Oh, okay, huh. Well, he's, well, I have to give him credit there as well. I mean, he just said... wait, what was the question? What was the question again?
Because you're a businessman, that doesn't mean you're no longer an American. You have an obligation to your countrymen, so you shouldn't practice unethical business. The rich are too highly
the only
taxed.
social responsibility of a... Oh, okay, yeah.
True. Everyone's too highly taxed. The rich are a part of every...
Lowest tax brackets in history. All Donald Trump's basically done is give tax breaks to rich bastards. And yes, I know that that taxes also went down for the average citizen, but I also know that they also had some deductions removed, so they ended up paying more.
Everyone, therefore, this is true. So
oh my god, I still have 20 minutes to go.
I strongly agree. The rich basically pay for everything, but the thing is the things that they're paying for shouldn't be being paid for.
False. And move on. You've already answered the question.
We don't need them. Spending should be drastically cut along with taxes. I want to comparatively debilitate the government.
Oh yeah, your country should definitely do that. You should spend less money on defense.
Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Yes, but that's not because they're wealthy and therefore better than you. It's because the system should have mobility to ensure that it functions efficiently. It would be better to have a system where the only thing keeping you from getting good medical care is money, instead of a system where the only thing keeping you from getting good medical care is that good medical care doesn't exist anymore, that it's no longer accessible without a...
Oh wow, he's actually making some sense here. He's talking too much for me to pay attention to everything. But what I'm basically getting at is our healthcare kind of sucks. So yeah, good on you, John Doyle. But I think he's probably framing it in a stupid way.
Series of obstacles that are trying to have the same effect that the price system used to have, except they're worse at it and they serve no practical purpose.
Okay, sounds like he has acknowledged that the market-based healthcare system is not working. And yeah, that's good. Switch to a universal healthcare system. It's better.
Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. It depends on what you mean by mislead, but yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, cool. Good on you for and agreeing as well.
Free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Historically speaking, the monopolies that we're taught to demonize, whether it's Rockefeller, Carnegie, even Bill Gates, they weren't actually monopolies, and it was actually the companies that they were crushing.
I really hate that he takes. I hate that you just can't answer the question.
Simply by being better than they were. Those
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
companies were lobbying to get the government involved to like break up their market share. So I disagree with that. The freer the market, the freer the people. Generally.
Wait. I thought it was going to agree.
True, I agree with that. But obviously we have to have some regulation, right? Like we don't want people selling harmful products.
Okay, the thing you said about like the free market, like America's market is not it's not like that free. Like one of the like a freer market would be like Nepal. How great are they doing? You've got like 200 or more years ago. You have excuse me. Like people lived in corporate towns in your country.
So, but the market would punish them for doing it. Okay, if my daughter eats a candy bar that turns out to cause blindness, I really could not care less if their second quarter looks iffy. I would prefer that she could see.
Good on you for making sense.
Also, we don't want companies to easily profit off addiction. This is why we regulate tobacco, alcohol. This is why we should regulate pornography, because
I'm not against the idea. Okay, I guess it's not a terrible idea to regulate porn. Oh, it fell down. I'm not against the idea of regulating porn, but how exactly would you go about that?
if you're a slave to your desires, are you really free? Of course not. But when it comes to the general allocation of
Move
resources,
on.
the free market is, of course, second to none. So, yes. Abortion,
False, actually.
when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly agree.
Strongly disagree. Oh, well, he moved on right to the next question.
Authority should be questioned. I disagree with this. I recognize the importance.
Oh, come on, man. I mean, I thought conservative. Well, if you existed in like the 18th century, would you have been like, "Hey, I think we should actually, like, I don't. Why do we need independence? England's great."
Importance of being skeptical of authority. I myself am very, very skeptical of authority, but there's also an aspect of trust.
Yeah, right. I bet you take everything Trump says as gospel truth.
It's important because if you're not willing to demonstrate that at least some of the time, then no real progress.
Oh, God, move on.
This question asks if all authority should be questioned, which I'm assuming means like any authority at any time. So I would have to say that that is not always the case. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. If this is meant to mean that the punishment should fit the crime, then I do agree with that. Taxpayers should not be expected.
I don't really know how that should be interpreted, if it should be interpreted literally or the way John Doyle said it. So yeah, some of them are not that great.
To prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I disagree. I think that practically speaking, if we're going to talk about wasting taxpayer dollars, the museums and the theaters are not.
Oh wow, I agree with him there.
Where we should be directing our efforts. But even on principle, I think that there's great value in preserving certain cultural and historical landmarks or staples. So,
good on you, John Doyle. We agree on something.
Should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Strongly disagree. This is specifically asking if it should be the policy of the school, not necessarily.
I'm kind of iffy on that. I think if a person can like pass all the exams and shit like that, why make classroom? Why make class attendance compulsory? Some kids probably do need to attend class all the time, so I guess I'm kind of neutral on that.
Necessarily the government. So, should a school that you're enrolled in require that you show up? Yeah.
I think it should be a federal rule that decides on that.
Yeah, like if their academic model doesn't assume that a classroom is at full capacity or even that the capacity will fluctuate, I don't think that they would be able to allocate their resources effectively. Like if 30 kids are supposed to show up, and we plan for that, 2 are missing, okay, whatever. That's a lot different than if anywhere between 1 and 30 kids are supposed to show up, we try to plan for that. Like it would be very improbable that we could do that efficiently and sustainably.
Move on.
Like just go to school.
Move
I mean,
on.
it has to be a government school. Preferably we just do away with government schools, but you know, it's like,
how are you gonna do away with... Not everybody can afford to go to private schools. Did you go to a private school?
you should be in school, and that school should require your attendance.
Move on.
That's just my 2 cents. All people have their rights, but it's better for us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. The problem with this is that there are virtually infinite ways that you could
God, I'm getting bored here. I'm only halfway. Oh my God, and he spends. Oh my God, I'm just repeating myself.
categorize
The
people.
5
So the
question
logical
thing.
conclusion of this would be all of us like separated, living in the pods, and I don't like that. So disagree. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children.
Thank you for like making sense again for the disagree thing, and also the I know you just kind of answered it just then about the parents not spanking their children. I also disagree with that. I'd have clicked strongly agree, but you know.
I don't think that spanking your children is... I don't think it's the end of the world, but I don't think it's an effective form of punishment. The counter-argument is always, oh, well, my parents spanked me and I turned out...
Yeah, that's true. It's not... All studies show that it's not an effective form of punishment.
Just fine, yeah. No one's saying that that's not possible, but it's much more effective to actually acknowledge the capacity that children have for rational thought, even at very young ages, and then work from that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, physically disciplining children...
He's making some sense here. Cool.
It's quite often like a lazy reaction. You're not actually teaching them that what they did was wrong. You're just teaching them that if you find out about
cool.
them doing that, you're going to hurt
He
them.
gets an
Instead of
applause.
learning, they shouldn't do that thing. They've learned that they should keep things from you, and then they've learned that hurting people is a good way to get what you want.
Oh.
So this is how young minds develop. So it's important to
Yeah.
treat them as rational, intelligent young people. For children to keep some secrets from their parents. I mean, yeah, it's probably natural, but that doesn't mean that it's a good idea for them to do it. And the probability of this happening is going to decrease if the child feels as if he or she can trust the parent, and also if the parent has done well at keeping the child uninterested in things that would even, be considered bad in the first place. So, possessing
whatever.
marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Very slightly agree, but only because that's not the hill that I want to die.
Only slightly? Come on, John. Legalize all of the drugs. Yeah.
And right now, there are more pressing things that need to be dealt with at the moment. Frankly, I don't really care, but I'm inclined to push back because so many potheads think that marijuana is not only harmless, but actually like beneficial, and some of them even prefer it to be like this
all of the studies show that it is harmless and beneficial, John. You're very much in the wrong here.
miracle drug, and it's all very annoying and incorrect. The prime function of school...
You're very annoying and incorrect. Burn!
Schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Strongly disagree. There's more to school than becoming a cog in the wheel. Now, that being said, of course, schools should certainly teach students more practical skills.
Holy crap, he's right here. Cool. Fucking go away. Good on you, John.
Like, that would be epic, but there's more to education and life than just doing a job. School should teach you to think critically, which, by the way, means that when you hear something, you think of every possible way that it might not be true, and
Move
you keep
on.
just running trials like that until the idea is either garbage or sound.
Move
They never
on.
actually teach you that in school. They say think critically, but they never actually tell you what that means. If school were just to help you get a job, then you wouldn't necessarily need things like that. You could just skate by
Move on.
through just learning how to snap electronics together or something. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly disagree. The most important thing...
Good on you for not being What the fuck? Yeah, good on you for not being pro-eugenics. Gotta give him that.
For children to learn is to accept discipline. Strongly disagree. The most important thing for children to learn is to be moral and rational individuals.
Savage and he's not wrong.
Civilized peoples, there are only different cultures. Strongly disagree. Some cultures suck, and if you disagree, you should throw a dart at a map of the world.
Let's see where it goes here.
Minus the West, then travel to wherever it stands.
Minus the West. What you have the death penalty in a ton of still like a lot of parts of America. I mean, you got like what is the West to you? Like the West.
Your HuffPo op-ed about why all cultures are equal. Those who are able to work and refuse...
If you're thinking about... terrorism is not a culture.
...the opportunity should not expect society's support. True, you are not entitled to my labor. You have your own labor. If you choose not to use it, that's your fault. Laziness should not be rewarded by becoming an occupation. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I disagree. I think that there's merit...
good on you for... Go away. It's good on you for making sense.
To thinking about whatever's troubling you. I mean, obviously, at some point you're going to have to move on, but you need to analyze it, learn
like
from it.
You should move on.
Instead of just ignoring it and hoping that it goes away.
Yeah, that's right. If you find some... Go away! If you find something growing on your body, get it looked at.
Never be fully integrated within their new country. Okay, well, it says never, which is true, so I'll have to disagree. But I do think that immigration policy should require likelihood of assimilation as a factor. This means a meritocracy. This means learning English. This means supporting our Constitution. Because what we've been doing for the last few decades now is basically letting people pour across the border and expecting very little in terms of assimilation because it's offensive. And there's no such thing as American culture. Just...
You learned English. You know it's hard to learn a language.
Other cultures that exist in America, or at least that's what we've been told.
Move on.
What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. The question says always, which is definitely not true. We'll talk about some of the reasons why.
Move on.
No broadcasting institution, however independent.
At least he seems to be. This seems to be consistent here.
Its content should receive public funding. I disagree. I think that certain things should be covered by a public outlet, and also this kind of goes back to the question of like, okay.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him here.
Okay, is this where we're gonna attack spending on like what NPR? What about Social Security? Our civil liberty.
What's it? What was I gonna say? Oh fuck! I lost my train of thought. Maybe we'll come back.
Are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. I don't think that's true. A significant advantage. You think? I just learned that America has this thing where, like, the police can seize your property, without compensating you, and they don't need a warrant or anything. They can just take your shit. So, yeah. What's this? I'll check later. The advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all of the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. I mean, I guess. I don't know if I'd call that an advantage because, sure, your policy might be able to get through quicker, but I think there's some benefit to arguing about the policy and going through the process, trying to make it, airtight. So
I agree with him on that.
I disagree with that. Getting bad policy through but doing it faster isn't really an advantage, I don't think.
I agree with him there.
Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. No, this is ridiculous. Whether you're guilty is irrelevant to the question of whether your rights can be violated. The death penalty should be an option for
good for you for agreeing, Ben. But I think I know what he's about to say here.
Most serious crimes. True. justice for the victim of the crime, punishment
I definitely disagree with that.
for the perpetrator, deterrence for those considering crimes of similar caliber,
Deterrence doesn't really work.
even rehabilitation for the perpetrator. I think an argument could be made that your spirit is rehabilitated in your final moments. I hate lethal injection, though.
Well, Okay, what good is rehabilitation if you're just gonna be dead in the next second?
I would bring back the firing squad, literally,
Whoa.
just because I think it's more dignified. I would much rather go out on my feet T-posing than being strapped down and injected with the forever nap juice like an animal. I think it's disgusting, even for our most vile offenders, frankly.
I'm against the death penalty, but if there needs to be a death penalty, I guess I kind of agree with the essence of what he's saying there, which is maybe not necessarily the essence of what he's saying, but more that he's. I think people that are receiving the death penalty should, I don't know, maybe they should get to pick how they'd receive that sentence. If he's sentenced to death penalty and it's like, I don't want lethal injection, I want the firing squad, AV wants, I'd be okay if we need to have the death penalty. I kind of agree with that. If the state's going to kill you, I think they may as well kill you how you want.
In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. Yes.
Fuck off. And fuck off again for agreeing.
Defining features of conservatism, we believe in hierarchy.
Fuck off.
Abstract art that doesn't represent anything should not be considered art at all. Absolutely true. Abstract art.
Fuck you. Fuck you. I'm in. Just fuck you. How are you to say? Like, you have Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest filmmakers of his generation. He would not talk about what his films are trying to communicate. He wanted the art to speak for itself. I bet if you saw 2001: A Space Odyssey, you'd have seen that, like, the ending of that movie as just nonsense and isn't about anything, and you probably have considered it trash.
Literally exists to have no purpose. Like, its purpose is that it doesn't have one. That's what it's trying to communicate.
And even in that absence, it can have, like, it can have the meaning that you imbue on it. Like what did you say about Stanley Kubrick? It's what do you think happened? I mean, even art that is, like, ostensibly about something can have ambiguity. Like the Mona Lisa. What's the Mona Lisa smiling about?
Of course it can be aesthetically pleasing, but that does not make it art. Abstract art literally...
What? Oh. So if something is aesthetically unpleasing, you would consider that art? Oh, okay, I would agree with you there. But, I mean, okay, well, if it's aesthetically pleasing, like, why would you not consider it art anyway?
Exist to say that anything can be art because it's all subjective, which is why its popularity coincides.
Well, to be fair, it is all subjective.
With subjectivist culture, and it's also why it's so popular among these educated leftists on the coasts. In criminal
educated leftists on the coast? Straw man.
This punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. True, because justice for the victim.
Oh, fuck off! Like, it's proven now that rehabilitative justice is more effective than punitive justice.
Is more important than rehabilitation for the criminal.
No, it's not. Fuck off.
Also, because deterrence is important. It is a
deterrence doesn't work.
Waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Yeah, this is saying that some people...
I can say that there are some criminals out there that like cannot be rehabilitated, but I disagree with that. But I disagree with that on principle.
Simply cannot be rehabilitated. I agree with that. We know that to be true, actually. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Strongly disagree with that. How are we defining a...
Oh, okay. Someone's starting to get a little inconsistent.
And oftentimes the writer and the artist can also be the business person and the manufacturer, right? So I wouldn't say that they're more important. I think that they're all important.
He's backpedaling.
In the roles that they play in the big picture. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. True. Mothers, we love...
Okay, I do think that when somebody becomes a parent, keyword parent, your first duty is to be a parent. But what exactly does that entail? For mothers, does that necessarily mean being a homemaker? I don't think so. I think you can be a mother and like be a fucking like super awesome like a super awesome like artist, like Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman. She's a mother and she directed Wonder Woman. I don't think at the same time though, but yeah, if it was up to you, she probably wouldn't have ever directed Wonder Woman. Probably never would have gotten a Wonder Woman movie.
Love you. We cherish you. You don't have the hardest job in the world, but you do have the most important job in the world by far.
What? So, I don't know. Kids can be like little shits.
Without you, nothing else matters. I mean, fathers are not mothers, and
fathers are not mothers. This is getting cringe.
Fathers are extremely important, which is something that we talk about quite often on this channel. But at the end of the day, no society can survive without mothers raising children. Chesterton had a great way of explaining it. Basically, that feminism has convinced women that it's oppressive to serve their families, but it's actually empowering to serve their boss.
It's if you're a mother and you want to spend time with your kids, go ahead. If you're a mother but you still want to be a working lady, like, go ahead. They're just as great.
Bosses. This idea that it's empowering to outsource the nurturing of your child to someone else while you go punch.
I mean, why? I don't know. Maybe it's. I don't know what to say. It's so stupid here.
Numbers into an Excel file. Like, come on, give me a break.
It's okay for the man to do that stupid ass job. Spend hours away, like, probably never getting to know their child, like, they miss their child's birthdays. Like, you think it's okay for a father to miss out on all that important stuff, all that important nurturing stuff? You must. So, man, let's.
Break. A mother's first duty is to her family, just as a father's first duty is to his family, but the job descriptions are different.
The job descriptions are made up.
And pretending that they aren't has made us into a depressed, lonely country with no family structure, basically begging
America,
the Chinese to come.
America was a depressed, lonely country before feminism. And in fact, feminism has made women happier.
Conquer us. So, multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources of developing countries. I am suspect of their use.
I actually don't know what that means.
Of unethically and exploiting, so I disagree with that. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect.
Multinational companies exploiting the planet. Yeah, the developing countries, yeah, they probably are being exploited.
Maturity. I generally agree with that. Of course, it depends on which establishment you're talking.
I think it's actually a sign of submission.
About, but I do think that it's important to accept that some things just are certain ways, and it's best to try to live your life in accordance with that instead of.
I think it's more. So if women still weren't allowed to vote, you'd just be okay with that. You just have been. Shut up, lady. Get back to the kitchen. Yeah, that's probably what you'd have been.
Just fighting against it. A great example would be your gender. Astrology accurately.
Oh, transphobia. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, I knew he was transphobic coming in.
Explains many things. No, and the people that believe this stuff have given me the most headaches per capita of any.
I agree with him here.
Group of people. You cannot be moral without being religious. True, you cannot be.
True? Oh, fuck off.
Moral without being religious. You could be moral by happenstance, but without any grounding, it would have no significance. For example, to be a moral person in the United States.
Well, what about the Crusades, where it was considered moral to go to the Holy Land and kill Muslims and Jews indiscriminately? Yeah, the first victims of the Crusades weren't Muslims, but Jews, God's chosen people.
Let's go back 50 years because the standards have changed because of the decline in religion. You would subscribe to Christian morality. You yourself might not be a Christian, but for your morality to make sense, it would have to be grounded in something that would have the authority to do that.
Atheism didn't exist. Atheism did not come into existence 50 years ago.
Which would be God. It's not at all a coincidence that this country's morality has declined alongside its religious affiliation and participation. And most people that think that they're not religious are actually very religious. If you ask them how
Hell Satan.
they think the world works, what they think about existence.
Hell Satan, Hell Satan, Hell Satan, Hell Satan.
What I've found with myself and with talking to people in similar
Move
situations,
on.
a lot of people just don't like to be told what to do or what to do, and so they get a bad taste in their mouth from religious people. But I've yet to meet someone in that position who seriously
Move on
and walks away unconvinced. And of course, that's anecdotal, but to be moral means to be in alignment with.
Move on.
And the only being that would have the authority to decide
Shut up.
humanity would be their creator, which is God. Anything else is subjective and does not.
Painful.
Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. This is true not only because it's more efficient, but
No, it's false. Fuck you.
It's a level of locality and reciprocity that Social Security and government has never tried to match, nor could it. Some people are naturally unlucky. Yeah, I guess that's true. You could be not born.
I don't know. I guess in a kind of a broad sense, luck would be like sheer randomness. I don't believe good luck charms of shit like that. So I guess no, I don't think people are naturally unlucky.
In America, it is important that my child's school instills religious values. Very true. This gets back to the same thing.
Which religion's values?
So afraid of their children being taught the Bible in school, despite that it's literally the most.
Okay, some of these questions he's actually. Okay, you have the question way back where it's our race has superior qualities to others. You have, he kind of looks at the human race, but in this question he responds specifically to Christianity. So yeah, he's being dishonest.
Influential book in the history of the world. It provides the foundation for the greatest society in the history of the world. It's why are you okay?
I'm not gonna read that book anytime soon. I'm still reading Fever Dream by George R. Martin.
With your children being taught the books of Marx and Freud, but not the books of John or Matthew. They're going to be taught religion.
What is it? Are those books that says that gay people should be stoned to death. Say that if your brother dies, you have to like impregnate his widow. Whatever.
In schools, regardless, but it'll just be self-worship. Oh, you're perfect, just how you are. You can be any gender that you like. You know, if that's okay with you.
I mean, well, you can be any gender you like. You know, like you could be man, woman, some kind of non-binary, or you can like have no gender at all. You can have two genders. So yeah, screw you.
Kids aren't coming to my kid's birthday party. We were gonna go bowling too. So now your kid doesn't get.
Fine, I don't want your kids at my kid's birthday party.
To sign my kid's bowling pin souvenir, nor does he get to enjoy 2 slices of pepperoni pizza and 8 ounces of watered-down Pepsi because you decided to raise a little Marxist. There goes your number one dad mug.
Number one dad? I take offense to that. I don't drink coffee. What do I need a mug for?
Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. True.
It's funny that he doesn't provide any answers for that, and sex outside of marriage is illegal. Whoopsie.
Same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Excluded in comparison to who? Children have a right to a mother.
Well, not in comparison to anyone.
And a father. The waiting list of married men and women waiting to adopt babies is miles long, even for babies with special needs. And that's not to say that they're less valid. It's just to say that a lot of couples aren't prepared for the.
Well, at least he's not saying that disabled babies are less valid. Good for you.
The extra responsibility. So, given that, there are circumstances that would exclude them. So, you know, children should have a mother and a father, and having 2 mothers or 2 fathers is literally impossible. So, it would be the best scenario for the child to be given to a married man and a married woman who can use their complementary strengths to play their separate roles in raising the child.
Children are not at any disadvantage by being raised by same-sex couples. What matters is if they have loving parents. And it is generally better if it is like a couple, not a single parent, because single parents have less money and attention to go around. So you're fucking wrong here, John Doyle. Fuck off.
Pornography depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Here we go, boys. Why? I don't
know. I think it can fall under freedom of speech.
First like to state that if you are pro-pornography, you would not have fit into the conservative movement during the days of like the George Bush administration, frankly. What I assume happened is the
who cares? Fuck George Bush.
internet moved into everyone's pocket, the online pornography industry exploded, and it gives its product away for free.
Yeah.
Because as the saying goes, if it's free, then you're the product. So let's think about this. What decides if
sounds like something a leftist would say.
If I have a right to it, banning it is out of the question. So do we have a right to pornography? No. Now, if you think the First Amendment of the Constitution, which reads that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech, etc. If you think that James Madison wrote that so that you could watch people have sex and do a lot weirder stuff after that, after you desensitize yourself, which you will, you are literally beyond reason. Like the Founding Fathers probably would have shot you for suggesting that. The Supreme Court has
you think that's okay?
To be regulated, it has to meet 3 standards. Basically, it has to be explicitly sexual, such as, people having sex on camera. It has to portray that in a patently offensive manner, and it has to lack serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. And the argument I always hear, well, but what happens if the left gets power and decides that conservatives are obscene with their beliefs and then they censor us? Okay, do you understand that in order to do that, as outlined by the Supreme Court, they would have to prove to an average person that conservative beliefs meet all 3 prongs for the definition of obscene, which means they would have to prove that conservative...
Okay, now I hope he doesn't stop talking because he's starting to kind of entertain me here.
designed to make people horny. Do you understand how absolutely drained of intelligence that idea
Look how
is?
seething he is.
Do you know how stupid that is? You don't actually believe that. You don't. Like, you want to believe that because you think it's cool to say that.
He's
the
going
government's always
crazy.
bad, no matter what. It makes it really easy for you to be involved in politics because your answer is always just, government's bad. And you get to feel like, you really know
Government's
something. Yeah,
bad,
you know something that we
capitalism's
don't.
bad.
This is why I'm not a libertarian. You want to know what did it? I noticed that I was consciously trying to rework my beliefs because I thought that, it'd be cool to be a libertarian. Yeah, government's bad. I'm smarter than all the people who think government should exist for things. But then I realized libertarianism only details in abstractions. Like, the focal point of libertarian philosophy is the non-aggression principle. Do whatever you want, long as you're not using force against your neighbor or imposing your will on other people.
Worth noting, libertarianism started as a leftist philosophy.
Like, that's why they think people should be able to own recreational news.
Like, I'm a libertarian, a real libertarian, left libertarian.
Like, okay, what if someone uses one? Well, that would be a violation of the NAP. Okay, well, what if they do it anyway? Well, they wouldn't, because that would be a violation of the NAP. And then this goes back and forth eternally until we're all dead. Same thing with pornography.
Some get bored now.
We know that. We know that it's one of the biggest causes of divorce in this country. We know that it's prematurely sexualizing.
Are you sure about that? What's your evidence? Like, citation needed. Do you have any sources? That's John. Show more. Okay, let's see. Support the channel. Fuck no. Get merchandise. Fuck no. Copyright disclaimer. Let's see. No citations. Guess you're just full of it.
Children, they're being exposed to it at age 11 on average, which means half of them are younger when they're first exposed to it. We know that prematurely sexualizing children causes an increased likelihood of depression, anxiety, dangerous behavior, relationship problems. It drains motivation from men. It makes them depressed. They're all addicted to it. Okay, that's what I've got. And then you want to tell me that none of that matters because... citations, please. Because what? Because you don't have a right. Like, it does nothing positive for you. No one's saying you can't.
What if I decided to draw my own pornography? I'm a pretty good artist. I could draw some, I could draw a rendering of Black Widow, I don't know, having lesbian sex with Wonder Woman. Would you be opposed to that?
Can't masturbate. Have a heyday, dude. But you won't do it without porn because you're addicted to the dopamine. I mean, libertarianism says
I can do it without porn.
That this is all okay. It's because it's better than the government doing something. Why? No one cares to answer because all that matters is that the government's always bad. The only way that you're going to get the culture off pornography when it's addicted to it is to make it go away. So that's what should be done.
Okay, well, it's on the internet, so how are you going to do that? Are you going to ban the internet like China? Is China still doing that?
And if you think otherwise, even though it's inarguably a terrible thing for society, I would imagine that it's because you're selfish, because you're trying to feed your own addiction at the expense of children.
Okay, I'm bored
families,
now.
and I hate that. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. I mean, it depends on what's going on. If there's abuse going on, then it probably is. So I don't know if I'd say it's no.
It'd be up to. What should Little Robot Spiders be going to people's homes from Minority Report? This guy's kind of starting to scare me a little bit.
Business, but it's definitely not the role of the state to try to catch you cheating on your wife.
Oh, thank God.
No one can feel naturally homosexual. I disagree with that.
Oh, good. I expected him to say something else.
The environmental factors that can influence the manifestation of it.
Huh?
Scientists have basically failed at establishing a gay gene, but there are things like prenatal hormone exposure that play a role. But ultimately, regardless of the cause of homosexuality...
oh God, now he's justifying his homophobia. Fuck you, John Doyle. You're definitely a fascist, and... Yep, Vosh has called you a Nazi, actual Jack has called you a Nazi, by... I think, okay, I don't think either of them has actually called you a Nazi, but I wouldn't be surprised if you actually were.
still feels natural to the person, even if its manifestation wasn't. So these days, openness about sex has gone too far. I wonder what I will say. All right, let's see where I ended up. Can I get a drum roll?
Can you justify that